Alright, this is going to be the start of my new upper lower split that I'm doing. This is going to be the lower A day. Starting off here, I have leg extensions. I'm going to have these things listed on the side in terms of the name of what I'm doing and then a couple bullet points about them. I'm not using straps on the leg extension right now, but if you do use straps, that's probably going to help in order to keep you into the seat. And then to note with the targeting all four heads of the quad, the rec fem or the rectus femoris is going to cross the hip joint, so having a more straight hip angle like I have here by dropping your seat back is going to be helpful to target that, comparative to something like the squat that I'll be doing later in the lift. And then seated curl here, there is going to be the hamstrings muscles that you're primarily targeting here, and then having the angle of the leg curl where you're seated compared to lying is going to target them a little bit differently because you're going to be in the lengthened position since the hamstring crosses the knee and hip joint, and so it's going to be a little bit more of a lengthened position movement for this. And I do have a lying hip curl or hamstring curl on my other leg day, my lower body day that I do, so stay tuned for that video where I go over that. And then with the tip, point your toes or plantar flex. At the end of the movement, if you want to point your toes towards your body, that'll help you get a couple more reps because you're going to be able to have the quads engage a little bit more, or the calves, excuse me. Now into the quads again, hack squat here is what I'm going to be doing. It's going to target 3 of the 4 heads of the quad, comparative to the leg extension where it's 4, because the rec fem is a little bit harder to target in this comparative to something like the leg extension. However, that doesn't mean that this is a bad movement. Like I note here, it's greater for range of motion. As you can see, I'm pretty much touching my butt to my heels as I'm able to get more depth on something like this comparative to the leg extension where the knee angle just isn't that much. And so I like to do this to try and get more range of motion. Now again, a note on this is it's going to be more taxing on the CNS or the central nervous system, and so I only want to do this sparingly comparative to the other things, and so I might do less sets over a span of a week comparative to something like an isolation movement for the quads. Adductor machine, I know a lot of guys don't like to do this especially, but I think that it is important because you're going to get that inner quad sweep or that larger quad look when doing the adductor. It's a muscle that can grow really fast, and so it's helpful in order to get that overall leg size. Last leg movement for the day here is going to be the standing calf raise. It is going to be better than a seated calf raise because it's going to overall have better growth for the gastroc and the soleus, which are the two quad or the calf muscles that you have. And you're going to see at the end here I start doing partials. Reason being, the calf really benefits from stretch mediated hypertrophy because the Achilles is such a strong tendon, and so being able to get those couple reps in at the end where the Achilles might be a little bit more fatigued but the muscle can still go farther is going to be helpful in order to get more growth. So don't worry about not doing half reps. I would definitely do half reps on the calf raise especially. And then last movement for the day is going to be the ab crunch. In my opinion, I think this is probably the best ab movement that you can do if you're trying to grow your abs or have a strong core. I think that the main thing that you want to focus on here is bringing your ribs to your hips. You're not trying to move your hips at all, and so if you can see at my torso, my hips aren't moving. It is just my core crunching down. And so that's what you really want to be focusing on. And now into some posing and the car talk.
Alright, I did not forget you guys today. Last time I did that explanation about changing my split and I put out that workout video, kind of forgot to record the car talk. But today I kind of want to talk about something that I think hopefully a lot of people relate to, and it comes down to the fitness space being really confusing. So I've been into fitness or into working out since 8th grade of high school, and I've been learning about bodybuilding stuff since high school. I didn't try and train for muscle building up until college. I was just in sports in high school. But I learned about that stuff. And I also have a degree in exercise science. I also have a certification through ACE as a personal trainer. I taught a course in college over personal training on the anatomy, on biomechanics, on all that stuff. I taught that for a year. So I would definitely say that I know a little bit more than the average person. I'm not the smartest in the field, but I'm pretty aware of the stuff going on within the body, muscle growth, and stuff like that. And so for me, what I see is a lot of people trying to give the most optimal approach. Do this way. You have to be at this angle. This is the best for the most growth of this specific, area. Or, you have to do it in the lengthened position. You have to do it in the shortened position, whatever else, right? And as much as that is good, and as much as I enjoy learning about that stuff, I enjoy teaching about that stuff, if we're talking about the large scale of fitness or muscle growth in general, that is like a drop in the pond. It is a small, minute, barely recognizable difference in terms of overall performance. Now, don't get this misconstrued. If we're talking about somebody in the gym who, I have seen this before, holding on to 45-pound plates and is doing front raises like this, trying to swing as much as they can into it, yeah, doing regular front raises is probably going to be better, slow and controlled. Or doing the most optimal version is probably going to be a lot better than that. But if we're talking about someone who has a fairly decent routine, okay? They go to the gym, they lift relatively heavily, they kind of push themselves, they recover well, they eat well, they sleep well. The tiniest little differences in form critique really don't get that much growth difference. Now, sure, those things can help with reduction of injury, reducing the risk of that. They can help with maybe getting, inking out that extra little rep with better form. So that's a little bit extra growth. I can 100% understand that. And I agree with that. And we should try and be as optimal as we can. But I feel like a lot of people fall into a little bit of analysis paralysis where they think, well, if I'm not doing the best exercise for my biceps, if I'm not doing the best routine for my muscle growth, I'm not gonna grow. And that's simply not how that works. Again, we're talking about dropping the pond here. The difference between somebody who's still doing bro split and the difference between somebody who's doing full body every other day, sure, there's gonna be growth differences. But if we take somebody who's doing full body every other day and they're a demon in analysis paralysis and they start overthinking this stuff and then they change their split again and they change their split again and then they change their recovery routine, then they change their nutrition, and all of these variables are going this, that, and sideways. And we have the bro split guy who's eating the same thing, always hitting his protein goal, always going to sleep, always training hard, maybe a little sloppy even with his form, but he's always pushing close to failure. He's gonna get more growth. So as much as the brain is the strongest muscle in our body, sometimes you gotta turn it off a little bit to let the other muscles grow. Now, again, this is not me saying that you should throw form to the wayside, that you should not focus on trying to be optimal, that you should only focus on just pushing yourself hard and nothing else. All right, I'm not that guy, okay? If I see you doing form incorrectly, I'm gonna call you out on it. But again, we're talking about the difference between doing the smallest, tiniest difference in your form. It really doesn't make that big of a deal. The smallest optimization of your nutrition, it really doesn't make that big of a deal. And so I don't want you to get into this idea of jump scotching around, hip hopping around, jump roping around, whatever, right? Of going from one routine to another routine to another routine to another nutrition plan to switching up your sleep to whatever else, okay? This should be fun. This should be something where you go to the gym and you enjoy it. This should be something where you push yourself because you want to push yourself, not because a research article said so, not because a meta-analysis said so. Again, I love diving into the literature. I think it's fun for me, in all honesty. And for a lot of people, they feel the same way. And they want to get the most out of this stuff because they don't want to sit in the gym spinning their wheels doing something that's not optimal or doing something that's not going to get them the most growth. I recognize that and I resonate with that. But again, sometimes the guy who does the wrong routine, but he does it with consistency and intention and intensity, he's going to get more. So if you're someone who finds yourself in this cycle of changing your routine or listening to people and like, okay, well, I have to change it because this person's doing this and whatever else, right? This is what I want you to try and practice, okay? I want you to sit down one day and look at everything that you're doing and give yourself a reason as to why you're doing it. Instead of just doing it because somebody said so, figure out the reason why, okay? An example of this, I eat rice cakes before I go to the gym with honey. That's what I eat right now. The reason it's a fast digesting carb, and I do it because it helps me feel good, I don't get bloating, and my pumps are good from it. Now, could maybe a different breakfast be more optimal? Maybe. But guess what? I like what I eat. Tastes good, gets me where I need to go. So I'm not gonna change it because it's easy, it's simple, and I know what it does for me. Next thing, for your workout, think about that. Why am I training the way that I am? Oh, is it because I'm doing this exercise compared to this exercise that someone recommended because that's what I have in my gym? There's your reasoning. If your reasoning is, oh, because I like pushing myself in this way, if you're gonna push yourself harder on a less optimal movement, you're probably gonna be more optimal with it. You're probably gonna get more growth because you're pushing yourself hard. So, do that for everything in your routine and figure out your reasoning as to why. Figure out how you could explain to somebody if they asked you, hey, why are you doing this? And if you have a reasoning, don't change it. If your reasoning is valid, stick with what you're doing. You don't need to be perfect with everything. Like, a comparison that I can draw, in high school, I was doing push-ups in my room and sit-ups. That was the start of my workout. That was what I did for activity. That was my trying to get big, right? Nobody in their right mind is gonna say that me doing a chest fly now isn't as good as those push-ups back then. But guess what got me started? The push-ups did. And so I wouldn't be doing the chest flies right now if that guy didn't ever do the push-ups, okay? So I don't resent that guy. I don't say, oh my God, if I was doing chest flies in my room in 7th grade, I would have been so big now. No, that's not what I'm saying. Because I understand that that got me to where I am now. So it's okay to not do the perfect thing all the time. We're learning. The field of fitness is so young when it comes to the science. There's so much more that we can learn. So in 2 years from now, you're probably gonna be like, oh my God, video cut off. But you're probably gonna be saying to yourself, why was I doing that thing back then? Like, this is so much more optimal what I'm doing now. Because you didn't know better, and that's fine. Whatever keeps you consistent, whatever you enjoy, whatever you have fun with, and you have a little bit of a reasoning to it, do that, okay? This is, again, at the end of the day, this is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun to get big. It's supposed to be fun to get lean. It's supposed to be fun to be in the gym. Because if you're not enjoying the process, you're doing the wrong thing. Fitness is a process, man. Fitness is not a day by day, not a week by week, not a month by month. This is a year by year investment into your time and energy. Year by year, that is how you see change. Every single year you see change, okay? You're not gonna wake up one day and be like, whoa, like, you're not like Spider-Man. You wake up after you got bit by the spider and you're just like, oh my God, I'm jacked now. Not how it works, okay? So, this is an investment. And I would rather invest my time and have fun. I would rather invest my time and enjoy going to the gym. So figure out what works for you, figure out what's fun, stick to it, man. All right, peace, like, subscribe. If you want coaching, message me or go to my website. I make plans for people. You could be one of them that we get results with. So yeah, let's get after it.